Thank you, Mohammed Mustafa. It was very insightful. I loved it. It was short, I think 25 minutes presentation, and I loved it. And I have three questions, not one, so sorry to say that. But one question is that for means I believe for regional integration, this is very important step. Means without institutions, means the integration means in my opinion can't work. And you also said that. My first question is that, for example, in the case of European Union, like the institution they built, or for example, for the world order, United States and other countries, they build the institutions. So for those institutions, there were some fundamentals. And for Europe, it was very easy to create those fundamentals, means, for example, human rights related, believing that means there was a democracy here. And means in South Asia, we feel like the institutions are already weaker in the nation states, already existing nations. And human rights situation is already bad. Institutions are already bad there. And there is no fundamental which can connect practical fundamental, not like the fundamental in terms of like cultural integration or something else. But there is no fundamental. We feel like, my opinion, but you will correct me, like there's no fundamental which could connect us in the South Asia and help us to create institutions. The second, what's your opinion on it? Do you think there is a fundamental which can help us to create institution? The second question is also related to is like the problem of enforceability. Means even we see that European Court of Justice or International Court of Justice, even United Nations at the global level, they're facing the biggest issue of the enforceability. And if Torque is already created in South Asia, and you know that the enforceability is kind of zero, or zero is a positive word, it can go to the negative side as well. So, do you think if institutions are built and the enforceability would be possible on the base of just institutional framework, or not like, mean, for example, we could say that enforceability is not like totally institutional, it's ethical as well. For example, when International Court of Justice say that that act is injustice, that gives the moral justification to the victim as well. So it's not necessarily the policing, but that moral justification and support is also considered as like enforceability. So my question is related to the enforceability. What would you say? The third is that means the current situation we are facing, as I said, that the international institutions are facing biggest issue. And for example, you said that, and I totally agree with it. So in order to go for regional integration, so surrendering sovereignty is the part of it. And that's also the reason, because when Brexit happened in European Union, and the Brexit happens here in UK, so I was here, and I realized that the biggest issue was that the European Union was an institution which was against the sovereignty of, you can say that, the UK, and that was the reason they went for Brexit. So how would it be balanced, like the sovereignty of nations and plus the regional institutions as well? So these three questions I have. Thank you. Your mic is off, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you. Very insightful points you have made. Particularly if I go with the first one, the institutional challenge. Uh, you know, and that challenge is, of course, not only in Asia. That challenge is also in Africa. Uh, I think from the perspective of South Asia, like if I talk about human rights, for example, most of the nations have national human rights commission, right? So in the South Asian region, I think what is necessary is to develop the nexus among these available institutions to the best possible extent. Certainly, it cannot be changed overnight, but it is a very long process. However, the question is in what perspective or in what way we are moving, whether we are uh, going towards the direction of regional integration, or our steps and attempts are against it. So I think that is where the institutions which are quite common in the nations, in the regions, uh, so that can be facilitated. Of course, the most significant challenge here is the willingness of the state, and that is where I will also emphasize that the institutional challenges cannot be overcome. However, in today's world, in all the bargaining platform, we use win-win as a term, and I think that is one particular point of our point of bargaining, that okay, it's not going to get any kind of repercussions to others. It is rather a win-win approach, and win-win situations for all. Had there been an integration of regional bodies, has there been more cooperations, that would really benefit us all. One of the fundamental areas where such kind of situations can work well is the example in the trade area. Like when the World Trade Organization come up with its trade liberalism. Of course, Russia, China, they were not in favor of it. They were out of this kind of mechanisms. But later on, they have joined it. They have joined it with the issue that in a world which is trade and economy based, you cannot keep yourself isolated. So that kind of realization in the regional aspect and perspective is also important, to realize that it is a win-win situations. So I think in that way, a particular sort of bargaining and positive way we can move ahead. In terms of enforceability, yes, I cannot agree more. Particularly, in my point of view, I also mentioned that this is where African region are facing challenges. Nations, yes, they have created institutions, but they are not willing to be obliged by, or to take the decisions for seriously. And it did particularly happened with the West African that court mechanism, where the West African countries particularly were not the ECOWAS Community Court of Justice. They were not really willingly taking the decisions and implementing them at the domestic level. So this enforcement challenge, yeah, how can they be mitigated? Again, it is what the state's willingness, but in a different way. I think the more people to people interaction, civil society's engagements, and the platforms like this one, and many other platforms working in South Asia, they can pursue and pressurize, of course, the and sensitize the issues and pressurize the government. So in that way, perhaps to a particular extent, we can raise the concerns, and of course policymakers can get it. uh, Third one is about the question of sovereignty, and this is where it's very it's a very difficult question, in fact, that states how far are in a position to share their sovereignty. For in the case of Europe, it was certainly a point. They have deliberately surrendered part of their sovereignty, but what happened uh, was the outcome. Uh, I think, in terms of Europe, it is not that there are no challenges. I believe the issues about migration, Schengen region, visa issue, in all these, of course, they have challenges. But the question is how far the states, institutions, and regional bodies are proactive to safeguard and protect the citizens, to offer protections and to ensure that nothing is going to be messed up. So I think particularly this is one concern, that there are, of course, security and other challenges, and we have more challenges. But uh, tracing back to the historical aspects, the region was, of course, once and for most of the historical phases, it was same. It was not divided in the way it is divided today. So that is where I think a source of motivation and an experimental example it comes, that of course the South Asia, particularly the India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, they had no such borders and boundaries as it is today, and there were centuries of coexistence in the way. So I think from that line and perspective, more engagements and talks perhaps possibly help us. Uh, so I believe partly I've been able to respond.